right, everybody. Again, welcome to our business symposium. The next part of our symposium is going to be a panel discussion on the need for a business plan. You know, one of the things that we come across when we're hearing about business planning is the need for the business plan. Do I need one? You know, people ask questions like, how complicated should I make my business plan? How long should it be? Is it going to be like a booklet? Some of our entrepreneurs have said to us that, you know, I've been running my small business from my basement for a few years. I never had a business plan, but I'm in business. So there's a lot of discussion around business plans that we need to have, which is why I'm greatly honored to have 3 panelists today who are going to be sharing with us their thoughts and ideas around business plans. But before we kick into the business plan conversation, I would like to ask each of our guests to say a little bit about who they are, the organization they work for, and then once they go through those introductions, we'll then go into a formal discussion where I'll ask some questions, and they can provide some answers, and we can hopefully have a lively discussion for the next half an hour or so, maybe 45 minutes or so. All right, so I'm going to start off with Claude at the far end. So Claude, Rivet with the Ontario government. Claude, please go ahead. Introduce yourself.
So thank you. Yes, Claude Rivet with the Ministry of Northern Development. So everything that has to do with economic and business development, that is our expertise. So either through community projects, economic development, to business economic large projects, to the startups in collaboration with our local partners. So my expertise being in economic and business development, also in export and trade. And I'm glad to be here to answer some questions, provide some expertise.
Thank you, Claude. Okay, let's move on to Josee. Josee, please go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Josee Pharand, and I'm the Business Development Officer of Entrepreneurship for the City of Greater Sudbury. And so I coordinate all of the small business support programs and services through the city. And that's done through the Regional Business Center, which is our small business enterprise center here in Sudbury, as well as our new downtown business incubator called the Innovation Quarters that we just launched in June. So we offer a variety of services to support entrepreneurs in the startup and growth of their business. And I'm sure I'll touch more on that as we get going.
Okay, thank you, Josee. Thank you again for coming, both Josee and Claude. And our third panelist is Alan. Alan, please go ahead.
My name's Al Linton, and I work with business management systems. We provide a number of various programs, bookkeeping, accounting. We do some taxes. We do mentoring for computer setup, and also lately I've been working more in the line of grant applications, how to write a grant application or a loan application, and also trying to think of all the things we've done. We've done some production work, and we've done some other, I guess, small business startup work, writing business plans, and that's what we're here, I guess, today to speak a little bit about business plans and why they're so important, why a lot of people don't have, a lot of companies don't have them and need them. And so we can expand on that this morning.
Excellent. Thank you so much for those introductory remarks. And again, everybody, welcome. Again, I've got Claude on my far left, followed by Josee, and we've also got Alan here in case you're joining us right now. So to kick off our conversation, right, one thing I wanted to just state is that when we build things like houses, right, you know, we typically have plans to build our homes, and, you know, there's a bit of an order to it. You know, you do a foundation, you know, maybe put that preliminary plumbing in place if you're going to have a basement with anything to do with septic systems. You know, and you typically frame up the house, and then you eventually put a roof on it, and then maybe the last thing you do is put the shingles on, right? So, you know, when we make observations of people who are starting their own businesses, sometimes people are doing things out of order, or they're missing a component, and they run into problems, right? So maybe just to lay the foundation, straight question: why does someone need to have a business plan? Claude, please go ahead and take the answer first. Why does somebody need to have a business plan?
So thank you. I'm honored that you get to pick me first. So I'd like to challenge that, Charles, and I'll tell you why. I'd like to actually start before then.
Okay.
I'd like to start before the business plan. Yes, the business plan is actually extremely important. It's crucial. But even before then, I've spoken at such events, and then people contact me and say, Claude, I heard you. I'm excited. You're telling me the government may have funding to start a business. And so I want to book an appointment with you. I want to sit down and talk about this. And, of course, being who I am and courteous, of course, whatever that person's name is, I'll sit down with them. And they're now sitting in front of me, and they go, so the government has money to help me start a business. Yeah, okay, I'm ready. I'm excited. I want access to the government dollars to start the business. And I said, well, okay, what's your business about? Well, I've got lots of ideas. Oh, but what is the one idea that you're so passionate about that you want to start a business? Well, I don't know. Tell me what works in Northern Ontario. I hear mining is good. I hear drones are good. I hear... No. This is not how it works. Starting a business, and therefore building a business plan in order to help you coordinate your ideas and make it happen right, is all about you finding what your passion is about. What's your expertise? It has to start there. Because being a business is not a 20-hour week thing. It's a 60 hours, 70 hours a week thing. It could be a 7 days a week. Find out what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what you love, and then make it in business. Is it food? Is it manufacturing? Is it that you have an idea, a creation? What is it about? Is it that you like to knit and you want to make sweaters in larger quantity, and therefore you're looking into sewing? What domain, what sector are you passionate about? Once you found that, and you really think that there's a market, then the analysis of, is there a market for such a product? Whatever it is it meals? Is it food? Is it restaurant? What is that? Once you know that and you think you really want to spend those tons of hours, that's where your business créneau or possibility is. From there on, you build a business plan. And yes, the business plan is the foundation to analyzing, who is my market? Is there a market here in this city? How do I go about identifying that? The numbers, who is going to come into my business? What kind of numbers do I need to actually make it happen? How many sweaters do I have to make a living and pay the bills? Or meals, whatever that business is. And then the business plan becomes the building blocks in enabling it to happen. But first, you got to be passionate about what you're going to do. And you got to find that idea. It's not for me, government representative, who may have money to help you start, to say, well, you should go there. Well, I really don't like mining. Well, that's where the opportunity is. Well, no, there's all kinds of opportunity. Everywhere. You have to discover what that is. You have to know the population. You have to decide, is there too much competition or not enough? Or maybe it's a new product that's not here. Let's make it happen. That's the importance. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, yeah. Thank you for that. And I mean, I think you're right. Certainly without passion, whatever you start could potentially fail. And I do like the idea of you saying that it's a foundation piece for those building blocks that you need to then build on. Okay, so let's move over to Josee. Josee, I'm quite sure you've come across many people that are talking about business plans. So again, same question to you. Why does someone need to have a business plan?
I think it's important because it's a bit of a roadmap, and I really liked your analogy of, building a house. So without a plan, you could end up running into trouble. So think about you're designing your house, and the walls start going up, and all of a sudden, oops, I wanted a central vac there. I wanted plugs there. It will cost you more money because you haven't planned in advance, because now you have to take down drywall. You have to add extra plugs different places. So without a proper plan, you could actually run into the same type of issues in a business. So you want to put everything on paper and really map out your idea. And there's a couple ways that you can do this. And you can take baby steps. So one tool that I like to recommend to clients is a business model canvas. So a business model canvas is a one-page document that allows you to really quickly map out your business idea. And you can see how all the components of your business, so your marketing, your finance, your target market, etc., work together. So I like to put that as a first activity for clients, for them to develop the shell of their idea, which is a great conversation piece for Claude to then have, and start to discuss what that business looks like. And once you have that, then you can take that and start developing a full business plan to go through the costs of everything, how you're going to market. So I do think it's very, very important. And I know a lot of people don't write business plans, but it really does help to prepare you to identify opportunities, upcoming challenges, and just how you want to operate your business successfully.
Yeah, thank you for that, Josee. I think certainly sketching out that shell of what the business looks like is so important. I think it's a very quick way for someone to do a bit of that litmus test to see whether or not what they're thinking about is actually going to be workable. And I think I like the idea of using the word like a roadmap, and also the idea of avoiding running into trouble by having that kind of shell figured out. Okay, move on to Al. So Al, same question for you. Why need a business plan? Why the need for a business plan?
I'd like to give you a quote from Benjamin Franklin from the States. He said, and I borrowed this actually from Regional Business Center, from Josee's business, and it says, failing to plan is planning to fail. I went out and bought a stereo and all the components. This is back quite a few years. So it was just the beginning of remote controls and all those other bits and pieces. I brought all these pieces home, and okay, let's get them out of the box, and started plugging them in, got them all up there, got them all set up, and there we go, ready, turn it on. Nothing happened. Tried again, nothing happened. Well, let's try changing a few wires. Let's change this one and that one. We'll put this around. We'll try it again. Nothing happened. I'm scratching my head. What do I do here? I look down on one of the boxes, and there's a white booklet about the size of that. On the front of it, it says, when all else fails, read this plan. And it was like my jaw dropped. I realized that I didn't take the time to go through the plan, that there was a plan. And I was reading, I thought in preparation for today I would look up some information on business failures. 20% of businesses fail in the first 2 years. 45% fail in the first 5 years. Why is that? And I asked that question, and I went to a number, and you can go on Google and check this out. I looked up a number of sites and to find out why the businesses failed, and invariably they all had listed in the reasons no business plan. They did not prepare a business plan. A business plan is a roadmap. I don't take a trip to Florida without a map. I don't know about you. I get lost. You need a plan. You need a route. You need to know how to go step by step. And so I guess we get to talk about why these are so important and how to get going on these. How to get going. And this is not just for new people. This is not just for a new company starting. This is for companies that are existing that have never done a business plan, never put a plan together. They need to step back, take a look at their company, put together a plan, maybe a 2-year plan or a 5-year, and then put the road marks in there, put the goals and the timeline in there. And then in that time, go back and look at it and see how your company did and move forward from there. Maybe rewrite the plan. Maybe, maybe it needs a little tweaking. And we're going to hopefully we'll talk a little bit about the internet today, because I think that's an important route to go with business plans.
Okay, thank you for that. Just maybe to recap some of the things I'm hearing here. Love the quotation, by the way, by Benjamin Franklin.
Yes.
Failing to plan is planning to fail. Another really cool quotation I've heard about planning is the 6 Ps. And the 6 Ps are proper prior planning prevents poor performance. So again, you know what, emphasizing the need for plans.
Yeah.
And just to throw back some numbers that you told us, 20% of business fail in the first 2 years. That's astounding. 45% fail in the first 5 years. I actually think it's higher than that. I think I've heard some numbers that even go up to 90% business fail in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think obviously there's a big problem there, right?
Yes.
And I think you sharing with us that the biggest reason for business failure is not business plan sends that message is out there loud and clear. You must have a business plan if you want looking to be successful. There's a couple of things I want to throw at you as maybe quick statements, and just want to hear your quick feedback on it. Claude, what do you do when you come across somebody who says to you, hey, Claude, my business plan is in my head? What do you say right away to a person like that?
So the first statement would be, wonderful, at least you've got your thoughts organized. How about if we start putting them on paper? Because there might be some pieces that you're unaware you're actually missing. And so that's what the discovery of walking through a document that makes you go through step by step about whatever that is that you've created. And what I mean by that is it a service you're offering? Is it a product you're offering? But the steps will be similarly the same. So let me give you an example. If you're a restaurant, you're offering a product. People come to your place. What if people are unhappy with the food? Well, that's like a warranty. Is there a warranty on your food, like a product that you return, you get a refund for? What is the case for food? What is the case for a service you offered and the client is unhappy? Have you thought of that? It should be in your business plan. What are the options of that? How do we service long-term the client? But all having it in your head usually is, I'm going to go I know how I'm going to sell it. I know what I want to do. I know what I want to make. I know what I want to offer. And I know who I want to sell it to. Okay, but you haven't really thought of these intricate details, right? And so that is what the power of a business plan does. It enables you to think about all the way up to warranties, language offering, internet access or not, financing available. If you're making a product, manufacturing capacity and capabilities, when do you have too much on your plate already? How do you go about hiring the next person? It's the business plan. I'm starting with one person as an entity myself, maybe part-time. But what if? What if I get a big order? What's my backup plan?
Gotcha.
And that's what the business plan makes you walk through with these different sections that you're analyzing and looking at and going, I hadn't thought of that. It brings you now to put your thoughts on paper, to analyze the options. And that defines who you are as a business in the end. Because the answers are there. They're clear. And as Al, right?
Yes.
Indicated, it should be revisited because things change. As you created a product now that is in demand, maybe it's no longer in demand in 3 years. And so now maybe you have to think, what do I modify in it? How do I make it more interesting? Where do I sell it that I'm not selling into? Different market, for example. Maybe it's ready for the next generation product because things get imitated in the marketplace. And now China has duplicated it at a much lower cost, and that's why I'm not selling anymore. So you have to reanalyze this business plan on a regular basis.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that, Claude. I like how you said the power of the business plan. I think it just really speaks to the importance of it. But one thing I wanted just to maybe reiterate that you said for the audience. Again, the question that we're answering right now is, my business plan is in my head. How do we respond to that? I really like how you said it's very complex, right? So because it's so complex, figuring out all those intricate connections and interconnectednesses that make your business function in your head becomes overwhelming at some point. So I think it's really important that you kind of clarify that by having it on paper, you're able to then develop it further, expand it further. So Josee, same question. An entrepreneur walks into your location and they tell you, Josee, my business plan is in my head. What do you tell somebody like that?
Well, first of all, that's great that they have an idea and a plan, but you don't know what you don't know is the way I look at it as well. And a business is complex. There's lots of moving pieces, lots of moving components. And if you don't have a proper plan, much like Al's sound system, you may not realize that you're missing that one wire to plug in to make it work. which is unfortunate, right? So by putting it down on paper, it might allow you to see, oh, you know, part of my plan doesn't work. I had thought I was going to do it this way, but all of a sudden, when you start to see it all together on paper, you realize, you know, that doesn't work. So you mentioned having a restaurant or food business, and oftentimes we'll say, you know, people will start that as a one-person operation, which is fine. But when you start to look at everything that you want to do, and depending how you want to operate, if you start to say, well, I'm going to, you know, man the front sales, I'm going to bake at the back, and I'm going to do deliveries. Well, all of a sudden it's, okay, well, who's working the front while you're out doing deliveries? So that's just one example that without, you know, putting it down, you may miss something like that. And then it's, okay, I just realized that I can't be a one-person operation if I want to operate like this. How much is it going to cost me to hire somebody? Am I still making money if I hire somebody? So you can't do that until you start mapping out all your costs and seeing it on paper to see what your bottom line is at the end. Excellent.
Thank you, Josee. Amazing feedback we're getting here. This is exactly what the entrepreneurs that we've been coming across need to hear. I like how you said mapping it out. I think that's so important to map it out. And I also like how you gave the whole idea around cost allocation, being able to better understand how your costs are being allocated. And I think like resource allocation is also important, and I think you mentioned that. And I love how you said explore options. I think it's so important to be able to have that on paper so you can actually see what that looks like. And then the other thing that you said that I really loved was, what am I missing, right? I think that's so important to be able to actually identify that. So for those who are joining us right now, we are answering the question, my business plan is in my head, and how does the support worker respond to that? So Al, over to you. Somebody comes to you, Al, and says, hey Al, my business plan is in my head. How do we respond to that?
Well, following up a little bit on what Josee said about staffing, most companies that are starting up or existing have more than one employee. They have multiple employees. And part of your plan needs to have your mission statement and your goal. And that shouldn't be necessarily your own personal goal, but it should include some of the ideas from your staff, from the people you're working with. They need to have some input. If I were an existing company and I had to put together a plan for my business, I would want to get together and have a session with all of them and say, tell me what you think we do, or what are we doing, what is this, and let's have some input into what this is, and then you develop your plan based on that information. If I'm the only one that knows the plan, and all your people that are there as your support workers haven't got an idea of what your plan is, they don't know what you're doing, and you're trying to make changes, and well, you're going to get a lot of opposition. You're going to get a lot of people saying, hey, you know, what's going on here? This is not, you know, where's the, you know, show us the plan. Show us the plan. Those people that work with you are important. They need to know so they can carry out your ideas. They need to know what your mission is. They need to know what your goals are, and those time-dated goals. They need to know that in 2 years we need to be here, and we need to work towards that. And here's the changes we're going to make, and here's what's going to happen. And that's all in your business plan. That's all written up in your business plan. It all needs to be there in front of them. They're important people, your staff.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And now just to reiterate what you just said to us for the audience's benefit as well, you're so correct in that. Having a common understanding between the people that work with you on what business is all about is so important. You know, imagine going to a company and asking the various employees, what do we do here? And they all have a different answer. So again, having that document allows you to have that common vision, that common mission is so important. So again, it's getting everybody wrong in the same direction, right? Making sure that nobody's pedaling backwards when someone's pedaling front. To create a scenario where there's no movement happening at all. So thank you for that answer. So the next question I want to ask you is, if an entrepreneur came to you and said, okay, tell me, what are the 5 key components of a business plan? Claude, what would you say are the 5 key components of a business plan?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure I studied that question.
Okay.
But I've looked at many business plans, and I kind of know what has to be in there.
Okay.
So 5 key components. You got the pillars of a business, which is, if I start with those, and the 3 pillars being human resources. So who's going to work at this? And usually it's the first entrepreneur that is the sole proprietor and human resources. And then the second one would be the space in which you're going to work. So is it a commercial building? Are you working out of your basement or out of your garage? And is that the short-term vision for what you're actually making? And the third pillar that's important is, what about finances? How are you going to fund this? So if we're bringing it down to 3, those would be the 3. So the people, the place to make it that is legal to operate, because sometimes you need a commercial permit, depending where you're at. And then the finances, how are you going to buy the inventory to make whatever that you're making, or be able to make the website that offers the service that you're offering to the clients that you're doing? You need some finances. From there on, you need to know your market. So market study. Is there a need for your product in this market or not? And if there is a need, well, there's probably somebody doing it already. And that's your competition. Who is your competition? What is the price point for whatever that service or product is? Understanding that competition. And then is there room within that market and the competition in order for your business to be successful and then thrive and grow? So those are all part of your business plan. In there, in the finances, then it gets further developed. How are you going to have the cash flow on a long-term basis? And that's where banking institutions come in. So those are all part of your business plan. So from the resources to the marketing, to understanding the market, to the competition, to the finances, and then to how are you going to put your product out there? Is it trade shows? Is it advertising? Is it website? How are you reaching out your clients? So there's many components of a business plan. Can I name 5? I try to start with the 3 pillars.
Gotcha.
First.
Gotcha. Yeah, Claude, thank you for that. I mean, certainly the human resources piece you touched on, the space, where is it going to happen, finance, as to do the dollars and flow of money, and the market study piece is also important. I think your 5th one was to do the supply chain and kind of the engagement, logistics of how you deliver the services. Okay, so Josee, I know some of the things that Claude have said you may end up repeating, but for the purposes of the people at home watching us online, the question we're asking right now is, what are the 5 key components of a business plan? So Josee, please go ahead. Let's hear your 5.
So very similar. I think we might end up repeating a little bit, but I think there's also the business overview that needs to be addressed as well. So this is your who, what, where, when, why. So your what are you offering and who are you offering it to, which is that target market that Claude was talking about. So you want to know who are the people who are most likely going to buy your product or service. And this is something that I hear a lot is, well, I'm marketing to everybody. Everybody can buy my product or service, which may be true. However, it is very difficult and expensive to target everybody. So what you want to start thinking about is, okay, who truly is most likely to buy it? Is it somebody within a certain age bracket? Is it somebody within a certain gender, area of the city, etc.? Do they have kids? Is it for kids? Are you targeting parents? So you need to figure out what that looks like and find out where are they, in your community, and what's the best way to advertise to them in order to maximize the money that you're putting into a business. So I would say, that business overview, your marketing plan. Sorry, I'm all over the place. There's many pillars. I think I'm just going to start naming things.
That's fine. Keep going.
But the financing being a major one as well. It's really, really important to go through the different steps of developing your financial plan. So your startup budget, how much money do you need to get this off the ground? And then from there, understand how that money flows in and out of your business on a monthly basis. And we didn't touch on this, but we talked a lot about the business plan being used for your own operations, but a business plan is necessary if you want to apply for a grant or for a loan. They want to know that you have these things planned out. So you want them to know what you need the money for, how it's going to be used, and then how that money is going to impact your business and its operations. I'm trying to think what else I'm cheating here. Look at that. he's got
It's an open book exam. Don't worry. It's an open book.
But yes, no. So so I kind of touched a little bit on everything in terms of your products and services. So understanding what you're offering, who you're offering it to, and the financials. I'd probably stick to that. And yeah. But I will leave some airtime to Al here so he can mention something.
No, thank you for that, Josee. And I want to just to echo back one of the things that both Claude and Josee emphasize is the whole idea of your market study. Like, the whole idea of really get to know who exactly that target client is. I think there was a study done by Walmart, for example, where they figured out that their target client is a very specific woman at a certain age group with a certain demographic situation around her life, right? They kind of narrowed it down to that specific person, right? And I think, again, both of you kind of brought that market study piece and being able to really zoom in on who the client is. I think that's really important. And Josee, one of the things that you brought up, we should talk about it a little bit later on, is business plan and securing financing. How do those two relate? I think we should have that conversation in a little bit more depth, because I think that's really sort of where we're going with the business plan, is make a case for others to put money into my business with the business plan. So we can talk a little bit more about that. But Al, I want to go back to you with that same question. What would you say are the 5 key pillars of a business plan? And please feel free to refer to the notes as well. This is an open book conversation.
Okay. First of all, I have to say, when you're asking for 5, I have searched on the internet for business plans, and some have 9, and some have 3 and 4. 5. I mean, there's any number of outlines. I happen to have 7, really 6 important ones. A business plan has to be designed around your company. Some companies are huge. Some companies we're talking about multi employees, hundreds of employees. Some companies are starting, they're only going to have maybe a smaller number, 25 or 50 employees. Maybe it's a ma and pa operation that you want to have, but you still need an outline, and you only have yourself and your wife and maybe a couple of your kids, small. The plans are totally different, and what we need to have in those plans is different. And so each plan becomes unique to them, because some companies are producing product. Some companies are having services. They're offering services out to the public. And, so they come in so many different ways. And so each one, and it really starts with kind of an idea let's say the first person. The first person has an idea. I'd like to start a business. How do I go about doing excuse me. How do I go about doing this? And they come up with a mission statement, kind of an idea in their head. It's not fully filled out. They haven't got the whole idea, but they've got a good idea. And my thing in terms of working with somebody is going to say to them right away, okay, you've got an idea for, let's say, a product. You've got an idea for a product. What is this product? Why is it unique? If there are 20 other companies producing this product, what's unique about your product? Why is it going to sell better than them? Who are you going to sell it to? We are talking about demographics. Josee was talking about all the people you're going to sell to. Have you figured out who your market is? Have you figured out who your competitors are? What share of the market you have, and what will that result in dollars? You think you're going to become a millionaire overnight by selling your product, but the reality is there's other sorry, I got a dry mouth here. Other companies out there that are doing selling the same product, and they want to sell their product, and they see you coming, and they're going to be right on top of you. So market research is really, takes into account the demographics, the age groups, who you're selling to. Are you selling to kids? You're selling to young adults? You're selling to married families? Are you selling to seniors? locally, province-wide, country-wide? Are you going on the network and selling everywhere? I mean, it's there's a big market out there. Once you get that, then you come up with your marketing plan. You come up with your operation of how you're going to build, how you're going to set up, how you're going to put it all together. And then once you've got that, you take your financial plan from all of this, take your investors and your loan applications and all, and then you go for the dollars. Because ultimately, that's what it all comes back to, is the dollars.
Thank you for that, Al. Again, just say back some of the things I'm hearing.
Okay.
You know, you're right. You know, at the end of the day, that financial plan needs to be sound enough for someone to be convinced to, you know, to give you some money for your business. But I think certainly I like how you framed it in saying that the pillars of the business plan are dependent on the type of business that you're starting. So different businesses will have different pillars of what is key to having a business plan. What I want to do now is move us to a conversation about grant applications and conversation about seeking a loan or seeking any kind of, whether it be a venture capital fund support. Can you maybe tell me, what is the linkage between a business plan and a grant application? Do I need both? Or do I just sort of grant application, no business plan? Do I need both? Claude, start off with you. Give us some idea on what is the linkage between grant applications and business plans.
Oh, the table is going.
The table is falling, folks.
Yep.
The table is falling.
Yep, it's falling apart.
Oh, maybe it's no longer falling. Oh, okay.
There you go.
There we go. And we're back.
Sorry,
and
everybody,
we're back.
with a technical difficulty, the table
No,
was
it's like
falling.
the sky is falling. That wasn't the case, just the table. So great question. In a best case scenario, in a perfect world, and we are not in a perfect world, by the way, but in a perfect world, should you have both a business plan, and when you're making a grant application, do you actually expect to just give your business plan and that should help you get the grant? The answer is no. The answer is no. You should have a business plan point. The business plan is extremely important, again, to structure the vision of where you are in a company, how you're going to go about it from start to finish. At the early stage start, no longer having it just in your head, to later stage, securing financing for your business, which you will need eventually, and that's where the business plan shines, because it's written mostly to organize your thought and to access financing, as the financing institutions need a business plan. They will not see you without it. A grant application has certain particular aspects that you can rob and duplicate from your business plan. You can cut and paste and put it into it easily. And therefore, the fact that you've organized your ideas into the business plan enable you to do the grant application in a jiffy, in a really quick aspect, because most of your ideas have been detailed in it. But the grant application will have certain questions that are key to the granting institution you're applying to, so that the program that it's supporting, for example, maybe the granting institution mostly deals with manufacturing companies. So therefore, your business plan may have different sectors that it's dealing with, but you're accessing the manufacturing because you want machinery for it, and there's a grant for that. You'll need to modify your business plan by taking some sections of it and answering the questions of the grant. Possibly even further down, because the granting institution or government assistance institutions will want to know what kind of benefits, if they get to support your company, will it bring to the population, which in this case the Ontario government, how will it enhance the lives of Northern Ontario people? Well, now you're going into, it's no longer just about you as a business, but what you're making is making a difference in the economy of the North. So now you're modifying your answer to answer the questions in the grant application, which then enable you at the end, hopefully, to get that grant, to get that funding. So there's a modification aspect, but most of the ideas are already in the business plan. So you'll do some cut and paste, you'll modify, but you need to go through the grant application. You can't just hand your business plan and say, oh, it's all in there. Now give me the grant. Well, no, it does not work that way. So in the perfect world, you'll have to do both. But the start is always the business plan.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that, Claude. And I think certainly, you know, the impact of your business on the broader community is something that's very important if you're seeking money from the public sector. I think that's very important, kind of that benefits the population. And again, I think you did reiterate, the business plan helps you organize your thoughts. And I really like the idea of being able to cut and paste from your business plan into your grant application. But still, the business plan is necessary and required. Josee, I'm going to ask you the same question. Maybe comment on the relationship between the business plan and grant application, funding applications, loan applications.
So I'm going to say that writing a business plan is never a waste, whether you apply for a grant or not, but it does make the process a little bit easier. Like Claude said, you can copy-paste pieces of your business plan into certain sections of the grant application. And I think having the business plan is important because if you apply for a grant too early and you haven't, I'm going to keep saying, map things out, you haven't planned things out, you may not actually be able to answer some of the questions in the grant application, because there is a very important component of a grant application where it asks you for your budget. So how much money do you need, what do you need it for, and what are your other streams of funding to help fund the entire project, because most grants don't cover 100%, so you need to be able to demonstrate where the rest of the funds are coming from. So that's where the business plan will come in and allow you to figure out what that looks like. And if you do need to go to a bank on top of applying to NOHFC or any other program. So I think it's important. And can I want to add something to what Al said to the last question about how every business plan is unique and may have different applications. So if you are writing a business plan solely for yourself, that doesn't mean you need to have a 30, 40, 60-page business plan. It could end up just being a 10, 15-page business plan for yourself. And that may actually, in some instances, be okay to present to a bank or to an NOHFC. It all depends on the complexity of your business. So I think the idea of developing a business plan seems overwhelming because people expect, this is our business plan guide, sorry, I'm going to steal it, but people expect that they have to write, a big hunking document, but that may not necessarily be the case depending on the complexity of your business. So just keep that in mind, that there's different formats, there's different uses, and all of them may look slightly different. So I've read 10-page business plans, which have been fantastic, and I've also read 120-page business plans, which have also been fantastic, a little longer to read. But on that note, don't add content just to add content. Your banker and the people who are reading the business plan will thank you if your business plan is clear and concise. Nobody needs to have a 125-page business plan if it doesn't necessarily need to be that long. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. Well, no, just sincerely thank you for that. And I think I think the audience needs to understand this, and I think our clients need to understand this, that it's not how many words you put down, it's the quality of the words that you're putting down that really matters. And again, I think I like how you kind of brought it back to say there's an issue there on the complexity of the business and the type of business plan you utilize. But touching on the money piece, I really liked how you said that in the business plan, you can also demonstrate what portion of the funding you're going to bring in yourself. Like, what is your contribution? What is your part to that funding application? That will then help you to apply for that grant in an easier way. The next thing I want to touch on is just switch topics a little bit on you. So maybe answer this with your opinion on this one is, if somebody wants to start a business, should they register the business first, then do the business plan? Should they figure out what type of business structure they want, legal structure, first, before doing the business plan? So I guess maybe my point of the question is, when should someone register the business? And how do they decide on the type of registration? Is it done before the business plan, during the business planning process? What are your thoughts on that? Let's start off with Al this time around.
I think a new business always starts with a nugget in the mind of someone, number one person. And you have to take and begin to develop that. You develop that. And you usually do that by talking to other people. You may come to the regional business center and talk to somebody. You may come to NOBEEP and talk to you. But you have an idea. and then you're saying, well, I've never done this before. I need some help. I need to know, what are the next steps? What steps should I be taking? And so you begin to put your ducks in order, and you take this idea and you begin to develop it. And if you're going to be looking for a grant, yes, you're going to need to put something down on paper. Now, you may not have a full-blown business plan at that point, but you have your ideas, you have your mission and your goals, and you have an idea about the product you're going to, or the service that you're going to provide, and you begin to develop that, and with that, from there, you can develop your larger plan. You're going to need, I mean, if you're going to go for funding, you're going to need the business plan. I mean, they come part and parcel. The business plan is the overview of your business. The grant may be a little section over here that you want to add on, but it needs to reflect when the banker, if you go to the bank, or the loan, the investor, they're going to ask you all these questions that are in your business plan. They're going to want to know, who are you? What are you providing? What are you doing? And like you mentioned earlier, there's got to be some feedback for the investor. I mean, they're either going to make a profit, or if it's a grant money from Ontario, they want to see a result in Ontario. They want to see the benefit it is to the people of Ontario. And so there's so that little segment of over here, it needs to reflect everything that's in your building plan.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Al. Maybe what I'm going to do is ask Claude the question. Claude, when should someone register their business? Is it during the grant application, during business planning, and also how should someone decide on the legal structure of their business?
Charles, thank you. That is truly a loaded question, because it's a complicated one. It's got multiple segments into that one question. Yeah. So multi-question, and I kind of get to deal with that regularly with people that come in and see me, especially ideas people. So what I mean by ideas people is people that think they've got an invention, they've got a new gadget, they've got a new concept that's not out there, and that's their business. And I love that because I find it fascinating, the journey of how they got there. So then the question becomes, so what do I do? Do I register my business in order to start? Well, I don't know. Do you really think it can work? Have you actually put some thoughts on paper? Have you started a business plan so that you can structure how you can go about developing this? So it doesn't have to be an inventor. It doesn't have to be that complex. It could be anything, a product. And so my question often is the business registration and or more complex, the incorporation of a company, of an entity, when we're getting into the different business structures, which the business, the regional business office is there to assist and coach on and help decide. So we got great resources in Greater Sudbury as to when you should do it, what is the timing, and how do you go about doing it? What are the costs? How quickly can it happen? How complex is it when it's a corporation? And there's different ways you can do it. But I'm not answering your question right now. The quick answer to your question is, usually the entrepreneur, the person that is starting a business or decide to be in business, will have started already. They'll have tested the market. They'll have done it as a hobby, and they'll say, oh, response is good. People want to have my product. They want to have my meal. They want to have my whatever it is that I'm doing. And therefore, I'm thinking I can make a business out of this. And the question is, well, okay, who is your market? Well, people are how many of you sold when you say that? I've been at this for 3 weeks, and I've sold 25 of these. Well, okay, you're right. It looks like there is a need, and you're filling that need. At a certain point, the government, the taxation government of Canada, is going to want to take that income, taxing income, because you're making money at it. And therefore, if you're serious about it, you've tested it, you know it's taken off, you got to register your business in order to be legal. Now you can have I'm looking for a hobby where you test the markets. You can try it a bit and you sell 10, 12, 15. You don't sell 350. Okay, there's a line there where the government is going to say, okay, it's a hobby. You knit socks or toques or whatever.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, when you've made your 150th toque, people love it because of the colors, the style. It's got a built-in speaker. No, this is a business now, and you need to pay taxes on it like everything else when you have a job, etc. And so you should register your business, which is very inexpensive. It's around $60, and now you have the legal right to operate as a business. Then the complexity of your question becomes bigger, and I don't want to take too much of this question.
Yeah.
I certainly want to share it. I know Josee has all of the answers, not just in her head, but on paper. And Al is an experienced guy, and I'm sure he knows all of this. But you have to then mitigate or have the client understand the risk involved in their business. So I mentioned a couple times food. Food is an easy one. If you make food and therefore something is wrong with one of the ingredients and somebody can get sick, well, guess what? You may get sued. Now, do you want to be sued and lose your house and your car and everything else because you're just registered? Or should the business operating as food should be its own corporation, and therefore it means its own legal entity, and it's the business that gets sued, and you get to retain your house, retain your car, because you're detached from the business. You're not the business. The corporation is the business on its own. Yes, it's more expensive to do, but it protects you. It protects you in not every way, but in many ways in your business. And sometimes you have high risk businesses, such as food manufacturing, restaurants is a good example. Snow removal is another good example. What if they didn't salt my entry and I trip? Well, I pay for the service. I might get sued. And so that's the, should I be incorporated when I remove snow or not? What is the dangers of it? And that's what you have to analyze to stay either to become a corporation or to just be a registered business. And sometimes there are no risks, and therefore you can just be a registered business at a very low cost, low taxing process. Corporation has cost more per year to do audits. So there's a lot of complexity, so that's why it's a loaded question. But thank you for offering me the opportunity to answer.
Certainly, thank you for that answer, Claude. You know, just to maybe to recap some of the ideas I'm hearing coming from you for the audience, how much you're making in your hobby determines how you should think about structuring your business moving forward. And then the other piece you shared with us is that the amount of risk exposure to you as a person from your business, you need to put that into consideration as you're thinking about registering the type of business that you need. So from what I'm hearing from you then, you're sort of saying, yes, you can start a business plan without formally registering a business, but at the same time, don't start a business plan, or you recommend starting a business plan with some knowledge about the type of business that you're in. So maybe try it out a little bit to see if it works. So it's not a straight line answer. There's a little bit of both in there.
That's
but
exactly right.
Josee, you've been labeled as the resident expert here in structure of a business and some of the considerations around that and aligning structure of a business and the business plan. Maybe your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah. So this is a very difficult question to answer because it's so broad and it's very dependent on everybody's situation.
Okay.
But one of the things that we run into a lot is, especially when people just have that business idea, they're not sure how they're going to operate, they're not sure what structure they want, but they have the idea and they have the business name. So they want to register the business name right away to secure it. And I just want to say that there's no rush to register a business name, especially if you're going to be a sole proprietor, because as a sole proprietor, you don't legally own the business name. So I'm just going to say that you don't necessarily have to come to our office right away and say, I'm going to register this business name. You can continue to work on the business, develop it, and then once you're ready and you understand the full scope of your business, then you can go ahead and register the name of the business. So, and I think before registering, you want to think about everything that Claude said. What are the risks of the business? So, do you have employees? The snow removal and restaurant example were excellent. So you want to think about all the liability that you may have. Okay. And if there is significant liability, then you may want to consider incorporating for that reason only. Now, I'd say that the majority of the clients that come through the Regional Business Center are sole proprietors and partnerships, and that's fine. It's low cost. It costs $60 to register. It's good for 5 years, and they could operate their business out of their home or out of a commercial location. It's all the same. Another thing that you want to think about is your revenue level in terms of how you want to structure your business. So there's a certain point in revenue where it makes sense to incorporate because you're getting taxed at such a high rate as a sole proprietor or partnership that if you incorporate, it then lowers your tax rate. So we typically recommend to speak to an accountant, a lawyer, to determine where that tipping point is. But that's another reason why somebody might choose to incorporate versus operate as a sole proprietor. Being an incorporation is more expensive. It's an investment into your business. Rather than the $60 if you do it yourself. I think it's about $360 at this point to do it yourself. But again, we recommend a lawyer and accountant, which could bring you closer to $2,000 to do that. But they will ensure that it's done properly. They will talk to you about what your future plans are, what you want to do with the business, and then they'll make a recommendation to structure the business in a way that works for you, is beneficial for your taxes, etc. And that's beyond, I'd say, most people's general understanding of finances. And I have a general understanding of how it works, but I would never also be able to recommend a structure, which is why you reach out to the experts, your accountant and your lawyer, to make sure that it's done properly, because it could actually be much more costly to try to fix your structure at a later date than to set it up properly from the beginning.
Got you there. Yeah, thank you for that, Josee. I think certainly, if you are in business to make money, you want to retain as much of the money as possible for your uses. So certainly structuring your business in a way that makes sense is important. And then the other piece that you said there is that you should treat anything you do in structuring your business as an investment in your business. I really liked how you said structure it right at the get-go, so that you can move along forward in a more meaningful way. That's really important. And again, utilizing resources like accountants and lawyers is very important to get all that done. I also like the word you used, the word liability. I think people should really think about that. What am I exposing myself to in structuring my business the way that I'm structuring it right now? So, seeing that we're nearing the ending of our panel discussion, I'm going to open up the floor for some closing thoughts. And I'm going to just ask you to go first. Now that we've spoken about this business planning topic, what are your parting words to the audience on business planning? Maybe give us maybe a 1 or 2 minute overview of your parting thoughts on business planning. Please go ahead.
Well, I think a business plan, because the use of a business plan is going to be for going to the bank, going to the investor, going to your staff. What should a plan show? And I've got it here in front of me. First of all, it has to be who we are. What is our company all about? Tell us who we are. Tell us where we've been. If we've already been in operation for the past 2 or 3 years, tell about the background and where we've come, where we started, where we've come to at this date. And so where we are right now, today, what's happening? And the next is the big one. Where do we want to be? What's our plan for 2 years? What's our plan for 5 years, for 10 years? Do we want to grow the business? Do we want it to expand? And the final question is how we plan to get there. How do we get to that point? We want to get from here to there in 5 years. How do we do it? And it's going to be through proper planning.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Josee, some parting thoughts on business planning?
So I think we've talked a lot about the importance of business planning. I hope that we've managed to touch people and make them understand that they should be planning, but I also want them to be aware of the resources in the community to support them. So if you are thinking of going into business and you want to write a business plan, I encourage you to reach out to the Regional Business Center. So we're located in the Tom Davies Square, and we have business plan guides, we have templates, we have an Excel spreadsheet that allows you to plug plug in your numbers and kind of work through things. And you can sit down with one of our staff to discuss your business idea. We can review your business plan. We don't write it for you, but if you come up with a draft, we'll go back and forth, and we actually work hand in hand with Claude and his team for grant applications. So know that we are out there, and we know what these funders and banks are looking for, so we can help you fill the gaps. So we can essentially be that that tester. So you present the plan, and we can tell you what areas need to be strengthened, what you've done well, and work with you back and forth to help strengthen that business plan. So it is a free resource in the community, and I hope that people take advantage of it, because as an entrepreneur, I think it's important to know the resources that are available to you and to utilize them. There's great support networks, and you don't have to go at it alone in any type of venture.
Excellent. Thank you for that, and also thank you for sharing those resources. We will certainly make sure that in our next newsletter we emphasize the availability of resources that are on the ground. Claude, parting thoughts, please, before we wrap up.
Parting thoughts. Wow, so many thoughts. I just want to come back to some of the examples that Al gave, where I think he's more so speaking about the business continuum. As the business grows, it has employees, and sometimes in that process of growing or wanting or deciding where the business gets, you ask your employees for input, because they're part of your family of growing your business. But let's come back to starting a business starts with one person. And the statistic is, it's 90, if not higher, 90% of businesses in Canada are led at 90% by micro businesses. So that's 1 to 5 people. So we used to say small, medium, and large. No, we're talking micro now, and that's where most of the job creations come from. So that's important. Understanding the importance of putting your thoughts from the very beginning in order to have a roadmap to follow through. And indeed, as Josee mentioned, there are great resources to assist you all over the community, including youth. Youth, we're talking university, college. People have great ideas as they're taking courses, and therefore they discover, I wish I had that product that would help me, and there's nothing on the market like that. Well, you could create it as a business. You could still go to school, and there's resources. Both of them have in their campus business creation incubator space and assistance, people to coach you through. So you're not too young to start a business, as we have in Josee's expertise, summer companies for summer students that learn how to start a business. An entrepreneur starts at a young age. It can. And it can also do it once you're retired. There's no age to start a business. And it can be fascinating. It's about exploring your passions, bringing it out to the world.
Excellent. Thank you very much, panelists, for this awesome discussion on business planning. I think if anybody was on the fence about the need for a business plan, I think after this conversation, you must have a business plan, and we agree that you need to have one for sure. Amazing resources available in the North to help you out with that. Again, thank you to our panelists for coming here to make this presentation and for making yourself available to the entrepreneurs that we're going to come across.